Hey guys, it's been a while since we've done one of these videos. Obviously there is no work in progress Wednesday this week. I'm actually filming this on Wednesday because I have finally completed killing off the Doodlebug Sweet Summer Collection, which also had some Simply Spring items sprinkled in as well. So I thought I would show you what I made, and I guess I'll start showing you the empties just to get those out of the way. I know some of you have been enjoying the empties. So obviously the first one is the 6x6 paper pad. It's finished. I managed to use up all 24 double-sided sheets from this paper pad, as well as a couple of 6x6 papers that I got in an SCT sampler from the same collection. I think there were 6 of them, and there were also 6 6x6 papers from the Simply Spring collection. A lot of S's that I also got in the SCT sampler kit, so I used those up as well. I used up all 4 sets of Doodle Pops. These 3 are from the Sweet Summer collection, and this is from the Simply Spring collection. I also used up the handful of ephemera that I got in both collections from the SCT sampler kit. I managed to finish off this entire 6x12 cardstock sticker sheet. My god, I can't speak today. This is from the Sweet Summer collection as well. And I also managed to use up a few partial sticker sheets from my stash for embellishments and things like that. I think there were 3 or 4 of them, but they're all clear, so they won't show up on camera. I used up 1.5 packs of the ATG tape. There's 2 in 1 pack, and then I used up a 3rd roll from a new pack. And finally, I've managed to finish off a 50 pack of white cardstock from Michaels. So we'll start off with this mini album because it's what used up the majority of the paper. I did a new thing for me. I did a sort of a shaker cover. I used this repurposed packaging from, I believe it was the pack of tags from We Are Memory Keepers that I finished off in my last Kilopad project. I held on to this because I'm like, that would be a great shaker, and then I realized it would be a great shaker cover. So this was fun to make. I used a lot of my sequins and confetti and stuff. It's a much chunkier, hardier shaker than I have typically made. It actually added a lot of weight to the cover, which was surprising. The good thing was I decided with this one, I still used those bingo cards. These bingo cards from Dollarama. This is obviously just part of one. I had used these to make my cover of my last mini albums. The problem was I just used a single card for each, each cover on the spine and whatnot. And I have noticed now that they're beginning to sag because they are pretty flexible. But when you stack them up against each other, they're pretty firm. Like I thought when I bought them that they were chipboard. So I doubled them up for everything. I have 2 for each side of the cover. Double up, obviously, and then the spine as well, and that seems to have helped a lot. It's a lot firmer, so I think that's also good because of how heavy this ended up. We'll see how long it lasts. It does seem to be holding up a lot better. So, pro tip, if you have these, double them up. So this album is about 6¼ by 6¼ I wanted to be able to just use full sheets of paper and save some time. And the spine is, I think, about 2 inches. So how I did the cover was, my original plan was I was gonna, because there's 2 sheets of every design, right? So there were 2 sheets of this rainbow design. So my grand plan was I was gonna put some light ink on this is the edge of where the ribbon is just covering the edge of the packaging. I was going to put some light ink on it and stamp the reverse side of one of these sheets so I could kind of trace through and cut out the middle, and then stick the cutout part, put the part that I cut out underneath the shaker, and then the rest of it on top. And then the plan was the second rainbow sheet would be the back cover. Unfortunately, it didn't work the way I had hoped it would, so I ended up having to use both sheets. I put down the second solid uncut sheet on the cover initially, and then I just sort of lined up the cutout piece to partially cover the ugly here. It didn't exactly work, which is why I had to use ribbon. But I think it worked out. It looks relatively cohesive, like it's one piece, and I really like how colorful it is. And then I just used some of the cardstock stickers from the collection on the shaker because I thought it was a little boring. I was already planning to put this, which is an acrylic word that I got in an SCT sampler kit. I was going to put that on the front, but then I realized that even if I put it in the middle, it was kind of large, especially since when you stand the album up, all the shaker stuff's going to fall on the bottom. So I thought I'd put some cardstock stickers on. I think it worked out pretty well. And then you can see the spine here, I just used some coordinating cardstock. I think this is from the actual collection. And then this is the larger piece that came in the SCT sampler kits. SCT samplers, they just take the 12 by 12 of papers and cut them into 6 by 6 sheets, I guess, because it's more economical that way. And not all collections have 6 by 6 papers. So they just took 12 by 12 of this rainbow paper and cut it down to a 6 by 6 size. So I figured it's the back cover, people won't really look at it, and it still coordinates with the front. I will say I'm already regretting using white paper, even though it does look really good, because I can already see there's like dirt on the freaking spine. Like, really? Really? It's not like I've been tossing the thing around either, so that's annoying. But I do think it looks good, other than the fact that it shows dirt really easy. So you open the album up here, and it's pretty heavy, so it kind of sinks down. That's one thing about the fact that I doubled up the spine. It's holding up a lot better, just the weight here, which is nice. So I have a pocket on this side. I just embellished it with cut-aparts and stickers. This is actually from the Simply Spring collection, but I just thought it went well. And then I put in a couple of photo mats, just made with cardstock. This one actually opens up like a little book. These are 4x6 photo mats. I couldn't put in too many 4x6 photo mats. Oh no, these aren't 4x6. These are 3.5 by 5, I think. And I put these in because 4x6 I think would stick out a bit too much. That was the one problem with making a just over 6x6 album, is there's not a lot of room for 4x6 photos, which is why each one here is a pocket. So I have a couple of different 4x6 photo mats, again just with coordinating cardstock, a little pulley thing on it. Since 4x6 goes full in there, you can't see anything that's sticking out. And you open this up, it's more of a 2-page spread that flips out, and then yeah, you just flip it open here. It's got a little bit of embellishment there with cut-aparts and some of the cardstock stickers with this side. And then again, I've got some 4x6 photo mats. It's the same pocket as this, but I just figured this one coordinates with this, so it faces this way. Same with this one, slightly different shade of pink. It's another double fold out. I didn't quite realize how busy this paper was until I started making the mini album and started trying to coordinate papers and embellish. This was the border sheet, but I figured it looked pretty good just as a design on its own. And there's these polka dots. This ended up being so busy. I grabbed it because it was all like the same color scheme, but you got the borders here and then you got the polka dots on this side, and this is like a summer themed collage, and it's just all so crazy busy. So again, it's the same thing on this side, just with different stickers and whatnot. And then for these middle pockets or middle pages, they are pockets again as well. And then to break up some of the busyness, I threw some more 3.5 by 5 photo mats in there with the belly band. And then I think I got both the pulley bits from the photo mats and these tuck spots slash stoppers. I got those ideas from, I believe, the Project 39 mini album channel. I'll link them below. It's a nice way to use up some cut-aparts, and they work as tuck spots, but then they also work as stoppers for these photo mats. Then this side here, I had a little bit of I misjudged the size of like the gusset on the spine here, so I had some extra space. So I just made like an extra large flip out on this side. There's just one page here. It flips out to here, and this is one of the pages, I believe, from the Simply Spring collection. I used those to pad this out as well, because they all coordinate. It's Doodlebug, so. And this one flips out like this. And then you can flip it out again. And this is the little adorable jelly clip, the bird on it, that came in the Simply Spring collection, and it's just too freaking cute. It's so cute. Yeah, so that's that side. You have these two pages, and then that's that side there. And then we have another pocket on the other cover. I just like doing that. And again, I have a couple of 3.5 by 5 photo mats. Again, this is like a little book, just coordinating cardstock on it, and then this is just a single photo mat. There's nothing on the back, and then that is the whole album. So I'm pretty proud of this. I'm still learning how to make things more efficient as far as flipping through and not making it so chunky that the pages start bulging, but I do like how this turned out. Like I said, my biggest regret is probably using the white because dirt shows, but other than that, I'm very proud of how this turned out. And then I also made a bunch of cards. So I made a total of 25 A2 sized cards. I did take some inspiration from Call Me Crafty Al's July sheetload of cards card sketch. I will link her below. She does a monthly card sketch, obviously based on essentially taking one 12 by 12 sheet and cutting it up a certain way so you can make a certain number of cards. She also puts the individual dimensions, so you can just make one card if you want, which is helpful for when you're working with like 6 by 6 paper. So I did about 9 in this style. I got 3 cards from one sheet of paper. Obviously this is the border sheet. This was the larger one that came in the SCT sampler kit that was cut out from a 12 by 12 paper pad. So yeah, this one I just kind of did a very summery theme. I made these 3 drink themed cards in the same style, and I did 3 in this sort of like fruit themed style. So doing the sheetload of cards design really did use up quite a bit of the paper that I had left. Unfortunately, that left me with a bunch of scraps and cut aparts and stickers and whatnot, and that I hadn't used yet, so I had to come up with other ways to make cards out of those. So I first started out just by using some cardstock in my stash. I thought these 2 purples matched really well, and then this darker one, I don't know if it'll show on camera. I'll lean it towards the light, but there's some very lightly embossed hearts on it, so I thought that would work really well with the sentiment and the sticker here. These are both from the Simply Spring collection, but like I said, I threw those in with all of my Sweet Summer stuff because it's all coordinated anyways. And then I just punched out some little circles from the same cardstock to just give it some matching embellishments, and I think it turned out quite cute. And then it finally occurred to me that maybe if I needed some pattern paper, I should pull out my scrap stash and see what I had to use to make some cards. I don't know why that hadn't occurred to me before, but decided to do that, and that helped a lot as well. So I managed to pull out some coordinating cardstock and a scrap from my stash for this birthday card. I wasn't too sure how I was going to use these because the sentiments are so small, but I think I made them work pretty well. This other birthday card here and this sweet card. These are definitely more like minimalist designs that I'm used to making, so that's been sort of an interesting process with these cards, is making something that's minimalist-ish and making something that's also something that I am okay with and I'm happy with. That was part of my struggle when I got to the end with these cards, was like, I know minimalist cards exist, but I don't know if they're my style, so it's been an interesting process. This one came out really minimalist. It's primarily just colored cardstock, but again, I think it turned out pretty cute. I made 2 of these You Rock cards using some of the foiled paper that is at Dollarama right now. As much as I am on a no spend, I really couldn't resist cheap foiled paper, so I grabbed some of that. And yeah, I think these turned out pretty cute. This is another very minimalist card where I just decided to let the cut apart and then these watercolory scraps from my stash do most of the work. Now this was the first time I'd ever stamped directly onto a card base. I have some more stamped sentiments coming up, but they were all stamped on white cardstock and then just matted and whatnot. This was the first time I had ever stamped directly onto a card base, and it was nerve-wracking because if you're just stamping onto scrap cardstock and you screw it up, you just throw it in the recycling and start again. But if you screw up stamping on the card base, you screwed up the entire card base. So I was very happy that it worked out well and it turned out the way I wanted it to. This is another card with the Be Your Own Kind of Beautiful sentiment. Like I said, I stamped it on white cardstock, some scraps that I had from making the mini album, and then I just sort of matted them on some colored cardstock. I wasn't really sure what else to do with these cards because this and the next one coming up were made with these long scraps, and I figured that was busy enough, but it also kind of works with the sentiment, so I did that. And this is the other one here. And then these last few are like really minimalist cards where I pretty much used the white cardstock itself as part of the design because again I was running out of, I was pretty much down to stickers and some very minimal scraps at that point, so I sort of had to work with what I had. This is the remnant of what I cut out of the rainbow paper for the cover of the mini album. I had to trim it down because it was all rounded and like I hand cut it, so it was all crooked, so I had to cut it down to a 4x4 square. And then I just kind of thought, again, it kind of goes with the sentiment and just going with the sentiment, and that's it. And then I was really stumped on how to use these 2 bathing suit stickers, because again, those work really well for like scrapbooking, but how do you put that on a card? And then I figured it could kind of be like body image themed, you know, like who cares what you look like in a bathing suit, that sort of thing. yeah, so this is where we get into the really minimalist, and I had to be really okay with it. And I think actually that they turned out pretty well considering it's not something I'm used to doing. And these are the 3 final super minimalist cards as well. I kind of experimented with layering cardstock scraps and things like that, which was again an interesting experience, but I think it worked out. This was also my first time punching out a sentiment, because now I have a 1.5 inch punch, so I have some sentiments that will actually fit. The only problem is I don't have a stamp or a punch that's bigger than the 1.5 inch, so I had to hand cut those circles, and you don't want to know how many scraps of cardstock I went through to put the matting circles, make them like look decent as hand cut circles. This just used up a lot of, like I said, my scraps. Like I had these 2 scraps here, and these are actually 2 little scraps that just happen to be from the same sheet, so I was able to line up the cut lines. This is actually a piece of paper, cardstock paper. I just punched out the sun with a little scalloped circle punch that I have. I'm really proud of how that turned out. Again, these are far more minimalist than I would normally make, but this is pretty much what I was left with, and I did want to use them. And actually this dotted paper is the back of a cut apart. It was in the mini album. It's like got a little car with a canoe or a surfboard or something on the top, and I really didn't know how to make a card out of that, so it occurred to me at the last second, hello, it's double-sided paper. So I flipped it over and was able to use it as sort of a scrap for this layered scrap thing, and I think it turned out pretty good. It was definitely a new experience making these very minimal cards. And that is it for all of the projects from my color collection project for killing the items I had from the Sweet Summer collection by Doodlebug, as well as some items from their Simply Spring collection. I'm really proud of how this turned out, especially the minimal cards. I really wasn't sure I was going to like them, and it took me a while to get to a point where I was happy with the design. But I think they turned out really well, and the mini album turned out really well. And yeah, I'm just really happy with how all this turned out. It's a very adorable, very bright and colorful collection, and it was very fun to work with, especially since summer is just about over and it's time to move into fall and Halloween projects. I'm excited for the Halloween projects. I'm just not excited for it actually being fall. But that is it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Please give it a share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and click that little bell in the corner to be notified when I next upload a video. Don't forget to check out my Instagram and the Facebook group, which is linked below, as well as ways that you can help support the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one.